Okay, Doug, I think at this point I want to transition to the next segment that we're going to do tonight. And I'm really going to hand it off to you to talk about the crew that's up here on the screen. Their team is here,
Yeah.
Inspirotech, and it's kind of exciting the stuff that they're doing. And I'm just going to hand it off to you at this point just to talk about because I know you've been doing a lot of research into this.
Yeah, well, thanks, Lance. Yeah, so we started talking about AirAnswers, back in the summer, I guess, our first board meeting, and we started talking about AirAnswers, and we've kind of been hinting at the idea that we really wanted to try to find a way to work with them. And once we knew more about it and kind of understood exactly what they were doing, and you remember, Lance, we talked with Steve Hergott on the board, one of the board members who brought it to us, and we talked about the possibility of being able to introduce this to the members as an additional tool. And as you know, one of the things that's important to us is that we make sure that we give them a lot of different tools to be able to do assessments in a more holistic and complete way, rather than just two swabs, you're in and out, and here's the report, thank you very much. So I'm excited about being able to talk about this device because I've actually used it. And excited about the results, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, about exactly what I experienced, and maybe give you some of you that are listening tonight, give you some marketing ideas to remove what may appear to be, at least initially, some barriers about exactly how to use this device, because this is a different approach to the industry. Not only is it more holistic, but I think it's also a much higher level of assessment, at least adding to the assessment that you're doing now. So I'm excited to have these folks in the room tonight. So tonight we have Rachel, Chelsea, and Christine, and I'm going to ask to start with Chelsea if she could tell us a little bit about who she is and what her role is with AirAnswers. She's been kind of our direct contact from the beginning, but Chelsea, what are you officially?
I am officially a sales consultant, specifically for the Chicagoland Midwest area, also lead trainer here at AirAnswers. So I will be doing training when it comes to NORMI and NORMI members. I'm going to be the point of contact. So it's really nice to introduce myself to everybody. I've had a lot of fun talking with both Steve, Doug, and Lance about getting together and making this relationship just excel and giving the members of NORMI the extra tools to become, better equipped to talk about whole house health and what that means in the future. So I'm really excited.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things I love about working with you, Chelsea, is that you tell us the truth. And I'll tell you what, that's rare in this culture. But one of the things I love about her is that if we'll ask her a question that kind of stumps her a little bit, she doesn't have a problem saying, I don't know, but I'll find out. And she always does. So that's what we're looking for, is that kind of transparency. So I think we're going to have a great relationship with them. Great to have you in the room tonight. Rachel, tell us about you and what your role is with AirAnswers.
Well, hello. My name is Rachel Rabelais. I'm the head of laboratories at Inspirotech. I'm in charge of all the laboratory operations, developing our laboratories, implementing our quality systems, which we have in place. We have our ISO 17025. So we have a very credible laboratory. And that's my role here, and working with the commercial team on different talks. And
so Lance, she's the brainiac.
I gathered that.
I don't know if I go there. I'm okay.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, great to have you on board. And I think in working with the lab, one of the things that's excited me about this is that they've been incredibly flexible in terms of giving us the information we need to understand how the report is actually produced and what that report looks like, and how it really is easy for the customer, the client, to understand, which is, as you know, what we really focus on with the lab reporting. When we started back in 2004 and we started using initially the Enviro screening lab, a lot of the other labs kind of got on board with this color-coded concept and making it easy for clients to understand, because the last thing you want is a lab report that a customer is shaking their head and say, thank you very much, what did I pay for? So yeah, so you guys have been great with that. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Rachel. And so Christine, Tell us
Hi.
tell them who you are.
Oh,
your
thank
role
you
there.
so much for having the whole team here. I'm Christine Sadowski. I head up the commercial group for Inspirotech, specifically the sales and marketing focus, and we really pride ourselves in wanting to hear from you all. So customer feedback is really important. I know Doug and Steve have been really helpful in terms of fine-tuning the lab report from the onset and incorporating that feedback. We're looking forward to hearing more of that. In addition, I loved what you said about Chelsea as an individual being transparent, because we do pride ourselves as a company with doing the right thing, especially when no one's looking. So high ethics, high integrity, and really focusing on the evidence and the science and communicating that in a very transparent way. So really excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, Doug and Lance, and looking forward to working with NORMI.
Yeah, I think we're gonna grow together in a lot of ways with this this approach, because as I said, I think the exciting thing about it is it's so unique and so different from what other people are doing out there, and I think it's going to set our members really at the top of the chart in terms of dealing with assessment and even remediation. So again, great to have you in the room. Well, who wants to tell me about your business? Tell us a little bit about your company and your mission, and what it is that AirAnswers is all about.
Yeah, so we came onto the market earlier this year with a more focus on molds and allergens and linking that to health. We have revolutionary patented technology that uses electrostatic capture to capture all biological materials. So this is allergens, molds, viruses, bacteria. We're catching it all with our technology. And those are the things that make us sick. So our company's overall mission in this world is to create a more proactive public that is able to put data on the air that they're breathing and make them care just as much about that as they care about the labels on the food that they're eating, and link that to health and create a more proactive environment. I don't know if Christine or Rachel wants to add on to that, but I think that's the overall mission that we're here to do.
Well, I'm going to put a parenthesis in here just for a second, because our members are very familiar with our CSP program, Certified Sanitizing Professional Program. And as you recall, if you've taken that class, we always talk about microbial loads. You do pre-testing to get a baseline, and then you do post-testing after a sanitization protocol to get your to reduce your microbial load. And when we say microbial load, what are we talking about? We're talking about fungus, bacteria, and viruses, which is just what Chelsea just said. And I think that's huge when you can take a single device and be able to get capture the air sample and be able to get all of that information from one sample. That's pretty incredible. So I don't know if Christine or Rachel want to add anything to that, but we're talking about your company and your mission.
Yeah, no, I think Chelsea really hit the nail on the head. We're really trying to make that connection from understanding what may be in the air quality from a biological matter perspective and saying, so what? What does that actually mean from a health consequences perspective, and make that link? These are the particles we pick up that go and travel deep into the lungs, into the bloodstream, that could be causing these really awful health consequences. And we really want to be a part of working with you all to help that become more transparent, and then put in the proper measures to, remediate and make change.
Well, one of the things that we talk about in our classes is that we fix buildings, not people. But we know that there's this connection, this environmental connection between the environment and a person's reaction to the environment. So I think it's exciting to have a device like this that can actually make that connection. And again, for our members who understand that when you're an assessor, one of the reasons why you use a third-party lab is so that you can shift the liability to them, identifying the allergens, identifying the bacteria, identifying whatever that is, you're shifting the liability to them. So now you've got a lab that can connect those environmental conditions to allergens. I think that's just gigantic. So what are the—
And just coming from a personal standpoint, I am an asthma and allergy sufferer. I've dealt with it my entire life. And I was also a nurse before this wonderful career opportunity. And not once did I ever talk about my indoor air quality with anybody. So the clients are out there, they're wanting to know this information and they want to link it to their health. It's just getting the professionals like you behind, technology like this that helps with the education and helps create those links.
So I'm going to give a tease to the members so they'll definitely stick around for the last discussion, the end of the discussion. We're going to be making these products available through Best Living Systems, which we're really excited about. But one of the things that I'm excited about is the SARS-CoV-2 testing that you guys are able to do. And you couldn't talk about a more timely discussion. And we're going to get there in just a second. But I do want to ask about something else if I could, and maybe either Chelsea or Rachel, maybe you could help me with this. But one of the things that impressed me when I looked at your website was the peer-reviewed studies that you had done. And you've got some pretty big name universities that you've worked with. I mean, this is not like, do it in the back of your garage.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of studies we've done with Johns Hopkins. We had an allergen study in Baltimore government housing that we had done previously. And that was a study to validate our device for the use for collecting allergens. We've also been involved with University of Chicago on a couple different studies. One recently we're working with them on is looking at SARS-CoV-2 in hospital rooms. So that's ongoing. We've also had some studies done with Northwestern for using our equipment for allergen testing. And then we also have another really cool study that hopefully will be published soon. It's through the University of Nebraska. And they performed the original studies with the COVID, the original COVID patients. So we're working with them on a study that was performed in schools, and hopefully that will be out this week.
Sounds like people have been busy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What's very important to us at this company is not only to have, provide good service, but also to have all of it backed by science.
Yeah.
And I hope you don't hear the rumbling behind me. We had a big snowstorm here. So it seems like where our headquarters is, they're cleaning right outside the window. So
yeah.
I apologize for the sound.
That's all right. We can hear a little bit, but I'm glad to know what it was. That is,
Yeah.
You're not just hungry or something. So
No, it's not my stomach. Not this time, at least.
okay, great. So tell us a little bit about the technology, kind of the background of the technology, because what you're doing is unique. Let me just say this to set it up if I can. One of the things that appeared to be, and I'll just say this appeared to be, like I said, I'm going to suggest ways that you could overcome this potential barrier. But one of the things that's unique about what you do is that because it's an air sample, oftentimes our guys are used to, 5 minutes, 15 liters of an air sample. You're talking about an air sample on the allergy side for 5 days, having that device run for 5 days in the environment, which initially my thought was, wow, how do you do that? How do you make that work? I certainly don't want to make a second trip, but I've got some ideas about how to deal with that. But my point is that what it does tell you is that what better way to get a sample of the air than to do it over a long period of time? That just makes sense.
It does.
And that's a very unique thing. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the background of the technology and how you kind of have developed this technology itself.
Well, great. Well, I'll start off with our device was invented by Julian Gordon. He is our CSO and he's the co-founder of the company. He developed this, he got the idea from this, or working with one of our previous CEO who had health issues. And then there was nothing really available to help with her allergy and asthma problems. So they got together and came up with this idea. And the device itself, it uses electrokinetic capture to capture particles in the air on the internal cartridges. It's silent. The air moves around a high voltage wire. And so it doesn't have any internal fans or engines. It's very easy to use. You plug it in and let it sit for 5 days, and it collects around 150 liters per minute of air, which, if anyone knows who's in the business, who looks at air sampling units, this is a very, very high volume air sampler.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's really important. In fact, Christine gave me maybe you can share that with him, Christine, what you told me about how many breaths, I think you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, yeah, no, great memory, Doug. And it's always, I think it's great to kind of put it in the context of what people can kind of relate to.
Yeah.
So thinking about breaths of air over a 72-hour runtime, this is the runtime for COVID, we're looking at 1.3 million breaths of air. So imagine that over this period of time that we're analyzing. And
That's
Rachel's
incredible.
made some really important comments in the past to where you were going, Doug, the value over the longer period of time versus a snapshot.
Yeah.
Rachel, I think you could go on and share a little bit more
Oh,
perspective
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. As we know, there are different devices that are available that are looking specifically if you're capturing mold or something like that, they're a snapshot. But when you take that sample in one area of the room, you can wait a couple minutes and you take another sample from another side of the room, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Our sample averages over a 5-day period of time for allergens. So you're going to get a very accurate statement of, or an accurate representation of the allergens that were found specifically in that room.
Well, I'll tell you one of the examples that I use in our training. Then I know that our members will remember this discussion. But one of the big concerns I've always had about air sampling is that I know that when I walk in from the outside into a home to do an assessment, I'm like Pigpen, bringing stuff in, swirling in behind me. And so the question always has been, if I set up my air sample immediately, how much of that have I actually brought in myself? And then, as you said, indoor air quality is so dynamic that I take it now, it's going to look a lot different when I take it 5 hours from now.
Yeah.
Or take it the next day. And there are many cases. We've kind of fought this battle for a long time, and the way we fought it is by countering it with devices like you're talking about, or other techniques that kind of mitigate the problems that we have with typical air sampling. But it's always frustrated me that an industrial hygienist will take air samples outside and inside and compare the two and say, well, it's lower inside, so you don't have a problem. Really? In Louisiana, the mold counts outside are always through the roof. So that doesn't tell you anything. I think thinking about what's going on inside, which is what I love what you're doing, thinking about what we're doing inside and taking that long look at the air quality, just as the person is living in the environment, I think is just a different way of looking at indoor air quality. So the first time that I got my device, coincidentally, I don't know if you guys even knew this, but coincidentally, my grandson started having some reactions in the new home that they had just moved into. And so we ran VOC tests, we ran swab testing. We did typically the way we would do our regular test. I got the device and I put it in on a Monday, set it up in the house. And then I told my daughter-in-law to go ahead, and I told her to turn it off. I didn't realize it had a timer on it. But I told her to turn it off after the 5th day, which, by the way, for you members, what's really cool is it shuts itself off after 5 days. But anyway, I told her to shut it off, mail in the cartridge, and then ship the unit back to me, because she was in Tampa, I was in Louisiana. And so I sent her a label. But the point is that the results that we got were unbelievable in terms of all of the allergens that were in that house. And many of those things were things that he is actually allergic to. So it was exciting kind of confirmation for me to say, well, here's an air sample that I feel like I can trust. Because frankly, with the other way is to look at the surface sampling and taking dust samples of stuff that has been in the air for a while, and now it's settled out. And certainly that gives you a lot of information, as we say, like reading the rings of a tree, gives you a little bit of a history. But our whole goal is to develop an IAQ profile, and I think this is definitely part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about the what you consider to be environmental factors that could be detected with this device. What kind of things are you going to pick up? We've been talking kind of in generic things about allergens, but what kinds of things are you going to be picking up with your device?
Yeah,
Well,
so right,
go ahead.
yeah, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead, Chelsea.
Right now we have an allergen and mold profile, and like you said earlier, Doug, the SARS-CoV-2. For allergens and mold, we are detecting pollens, which are birch, timothy grass, ragweed, cat and dog allergy, mouse, 7 different types of dust and storage mites. I think it's actually, we're up to 9 different types of dust and storage mites. Rachel can chime in on that one a little bit. And Rachel, which one am I missing? I know I'm missing the big one.
We have, go ahead.
Our
No.
patented mold test that is actually analyzing beta glucan in the air, which is a byproduct that live molds give off. So it's a completely revolutionary way to look at the amount of mold in your air inside your space.
So one of the things that we've not done yet, but I'm going to do it this week. We went into my my grandson's house and we did a sanitization protocol. We put in good filters. We put in good air purifiers. We had the HVAC system cleaned. We did a fogging, just our typical sanitization protocol. And I'm excited about doing the post test to see what comes back after we run. And I'm planning on doing that hopefully next week. Send that device down there and get the post test. But that's one way that we can use this test is for pre and post testing to show that you've actually made an improvement in that environment. Well, who wants to introduce the technology? We haven't showed the device yet. Who wants to talk about the device, show it, and talk about
a little bit, but I'll just do a quick run through again. Again, we are using electrostatic capture to capture the ultrafine particles. This is down to 0.1 microns. As Christine stated earlier, these are the ultrafine particles that are getting deepest into the lungs and causing the most health effects. So again, our device can capture all biological matter in the air, that is allergens, molds, viruses, bacteria. What we're currently testing for are allergens and molds and SARS-CoV-2. So you place the device, it's a plug and play device. We want it off the floor. So again, we're analyzing the active air in the house. Plug it into the wall, a light turns on at the bottom, green light lets it know, lets the customer know it's going. We actually had to add that on because our device is so silent that our previous generation did not have a light, and people would be like, is this thing on? That's how silent it is. So it completely fades into the background, looks cool on the shelf, and doesn't bother anybody in the home while it's doing its testing run for whatever you're testing. We have different run times for whatever it is the client wants tested in their air. So again, 150 liters of air per minute is going through this machine through our electrostatic capture. At the bottom of the machine, it is getting captured on our cartridge, and I will show you that. And this is what you send to the labs to get analyzed. So there's 2 stainless steel rods. All the ultrafine particles are captured on there and sent to our laboratories.
So that cartridge comes in a nice little white package. And you also get the mailer. It's a prepaid mailer. So one of the cool things about this device that I thought was really, really neat, and this is why I could do it with my daughter-in-law, one of the really neat things about that is that I could tell her at the end of the run, and I showed her how to do it, just take the cartridge out, stick it in the envelope, and mail it. Because I was able to register it. I had the cartridge number, obviously serial number. So I was able to register it on the site so that you knew when you received it that it came from her, and you could go ahead and process the report, which I thought was really pretty cool. That's a neat thing. So when you purchase the device, by the way, guys, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be surprised at the pricing on this. So hang around toward the end and I'll tell you about the pricing, but we pay a lot more for some of the testing equipment that we have. And I think you're going to see great value in this product. But tell me, Chelsea, when you get the device in the box, and it comes with 4 cartridges, as I recall. And I know we didn't talk about, let's talk about sampling first. Let's do this. You've got 3 different ways of sampling. You've got a mold only test, which runs for 1 day. You've got a SARS-CoV-2 test, which you run for 3 days. And then you've got Is that right? 3 days. And then
3 days.
you've got the allergen and mold test, so it runs for 5 days. So you've got 3 different types of tests. So my question to you is that when you receive the device, when they purchase the device, they're going to get 4, I think, prepaid cartridges, right? Is that correct? Or how do they decide how to use those cartridges? Tell me about that.
The way that we're working with NORMI right now is that you will be purchasing the device, and then you are able to purchase whatever testing that you're interested in, that your clients are interested in. We do sell, just to make it easy, the cartridges and the testing together, so there's no need for calculation. I know Best Living Systems will come up with whatever works best for NORMI in general, and we'll make it work. But that's kind of how we're marketing it right now, and trying to make it as easy as possible to get it in your hands so you can serve your clients as quickly as possible.
Okay. So one of the things that I found very easy, I think I'm going to talk about, let me just talk about this now from a marketing standpoint. One of the things that I found really easy was this arrangement that I did with my daughter-in-law. And so what I'm thinking is that I may have multiple devices. I may have, 5 or 10 devices in my office. And when I go do an assessment, I may drop this product off and then tell them at the end of the 5th day, go ahead and send the cartridge in, because I will have already registered it. But go ahead and send the cartridge in, and then give them a label to ship that unit back to me. In other words, I'm not sure that I necessarily see myself going out 2 times, but it's a very simple thing. I think it cost me $15 or something to have it shipped FedEx. It's a very light device and very small. And I just had her put it back in the box that I gave it to her in. And I sent her the label, PDF label, and she put it on the unit and dropped it off at FedEx. So that's one way to kind of overcome that second trip potential barrier that might be for some folks. And then everything's taken care of. It's just very easy. It just requires you to have a couple of units on hand, which, as I said, I think is going to they're going to find is going to be incredibly beneficial and profitable for them as well. Lance, do you have anything you want to say? I know I've been talking a lot and they've been talking a lot. You have anything you want to share?
What excites me about the whole process is years ago, the focus was everything was on mold assessment or inspection or remediation on mold. And we've been talking about indoor air quality forever, basically. And all of a sudden, people have realized that it really is a thing. And as we've been slowly moving our members in that direction, opening up the way that they do their testing, bringing in VOC sampling, surface, air, particulate. I mean, this is just another great tool that opens up the market that they can actually reach and the types of groups of people they can help. So, I mean, it's exciting that the technology is there now, available and affordable, that we're able to go out into the public with this and provide these services. And it just keeps expanding. The technology is just making it so much easier for us to provide the helpful services that are really needed.
Yeah, I think when you think in terms of not just using this as an assessment device, which is what I suggested that I did with my grandson's house, but not just using it as an assessment device, but using it as a monitoring device. I want you to think about the possibilities of that. I had a discussion just this morning. In fact, I got off the call about 20 minutes before we got on this call with one of our distributors in Canada. And I was telling him he was talking about how many commercial environments that they're working with where they want to be able to prove that their environment is safe. And I said, well, I want you to come tonight to our training. And I said, you're going to learn about a device that you would be able to rent. You could rent it out if you wanted to, X number of dollars a month, rent it out to this place, and you could have them do testing on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. And then what if they could tell their clients, their customers, what if they could tell their customers that they're COVID-free based on this testing, that they're doing testing on SARS-CoV-2, they do it every 2 weeks, and it always shows non-detected. How huge would that be right now in the marketplace? So that's even from a monitoring standpoint. So now, Chelsea, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is the fun part. I always tell my members that the only people that need sanitization protocols are people who breathe. So my my question to you is, where do you see this in terms of what you would consider like immediate, the low-hanging fruit, the target end users? Because oftentimes we think there's so many people who need this and so many people that, you know, we should get involved in this process. How do we target? Who do we set up as our initial kind of low-hanging fruit target? What have you found?
Oh, you know, it's nobody likes dealing with this pandemic, but this pandemic has really opened the door in terms of talking to people about indoor air. And that is what we are highlighting right now. That is how you get the conversation going. That is how you get people more data and give them more data so they will be more willing to use services and professionals on a regular basis. Again, talking about in a more proactive manner than just reactive. We want to continue having these customers long after the pandemic is gone, and also to prevent future pandemics. This is data, and data drives people to change behavior, and they're not going to change behavior without that data. So right now, it's a lot of companies. We are targeting schools, commercial spaces, hospitals, any place where people are congregating and wanting to open up safely to have that extra information. And especially right now, they're spending major amounts of money in this marketplace in order to prevent things, but what is it actually doing? And we're giving people that information, and your members will be giving people that information about if these procedures are helping, if you need to step up in certain places, and all that kind of information that helps create the baseline. What do we need to do in terms of public health?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So if you think in terms of commercial environments, especially, I mean, I use the example of my grandson as obviously a residential client. There's a call for that. We all know that one of the frustrating things in our industry is that there are only a relative few number of doctors that are really interested in considering environmental issues. There's still a lot of doctors out there that want to give you a drug. But the AAEM, as we've talked about, American Association of Environmental Medicine, they're interested, those doctors are really interested in environmental issues. So naturopaths, chiropractors, a lot of those guys are ready for this kind of technology. And I think that's going to be a door opener for us, as well as the commercial environments like you suggest. Schools are spending ridiculous amounts of money to try to get things ready so that the teachers can go back. The kids are ready. It's just the teachers aren't ready yet for whatever reason. But the point is that I think there's going to be great opportunity there. We're talking to right now a cruise ship, very interested in getting this technology on their ship in terms, and multiple ships, but on their ship in terms of not only guaranteeing the public, but protecting themselves from the potential liability. That's a pretty cheap insurance policy when you think about it. Even if they test every single week, that's a pretty inexpensive technology. I don't think we said this at the time that we were talking about the technology itself, but in terms of how many units you need, I believe we've talked about having one per air conditioning coverage area. So if you were doing, for a test, if you were doing a 2-story house and you had an air conditioning system upstairs and one downstairs, it would be best to run one downstairs and run one upstairs. So treat it like you do with your VOC sampling. That's exactly the way we do it with VOC, is one per every air conditioning coverage area. And that's a lot easier than thinking about square footage, frankly, for most of us. So that's the way we typically think about this. Well, Chelsea, I think we're pretty much close to the end of time. What I want to do is we want to switch over and talk a little bit about pricing, but we're going to save that for a minute. I want to ask you, Chelsea, Rachel, Christine, anybody have anything they want to suggest or kind of wrap this up? Anything you want to say before we go into talking about dollars and cents?
Well, I did want to note that we're always looking on expanding our menus. So right now we do have a variety of different allergens, 3 different types of pollens. We're really working on trying to expand our pollen menu. We currently have SARS-CoV-2 We're definitely working on expanding that based on the need in the market. And we also have, well, as Chelsea noted, we have the ability to capture bacteria and fungi. So we're always looking on ways that we can expand that also.
Now, please don't even suggest that there might be a COVID-21. Let's not even, I don't even want to go that way. Chelsea, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, I did forget roach, so I wanted to add that. I didn't say that with the original allergens. Just wanted to make sure I gave all the information that everybody.
Can I just tell you that my daughter-in-law was horrified when she saw that she had mice was elevated.
I mean, that brings up a really good point as well. I get a lot of times what stops you guys from just wanting to sell direct to customers. Our primary go-to market method is to get professionals like you guys behind our product, using our product, because you're the ones who could help with this. You're the ones who can give these clients more information and take them down from seeing mice and realize it's not the end of the world. And there's could be many different factors of why that's picking up. People need guidance, and your members of the organizations are going to be the one driving this guidance.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's such a great point. And I wish I'd have made it earlier. The truth is that as an IAQ professional, we're looking at a lot of different factors, not just this test. And I think that we do a disservice to the client when we just hand them a report and say, here you go. I had a great discussion with my daughter-in-law about the concept of even if a specific allergen is elevated, the real concern is how it might mix with other allergens, because we're living in toxic soups. None of us live in an environment where we have one contaminant. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to have that kind of discussion. And I think you're exactly right. So we're excited to be able to work with you in that regard, to be able to be a team of professionals, IAQ professionals, that can talk about a broader view of the environment than just a single sampling. Christine, is there anything you want to share before we?
Yes, absolutely. We're here with you every step of the way as well. So we've talked about all this information, but it might be overwhelming. So we do have training materials and support for your own onboarding as you get comfortable. And then we also provide marketing materials as well to support with you growing your business, expanding your business, and being really relevant to your clients. So we're looking forward to working with everyone, especially through Doug and Lance.
So thank you, Christine. One of the things that that you guys don't know is happening right this moment as we're talking, but we're putting a lot of your information up on our website at bestlivingsystems.com. It's already going in, so that hopefully right now, or as soon as this class is over, they'll be able to purchase what they want, and they'll be able to download some of those documents you're talking about, some of the brochures and so forth. So we're on top of this. We plan on making this a big deal. So thank you so much for being here. Lance, you want to, I'm going to give it back to you and let you wrap it up.
Okay. Well, one last comment that I have that I find just so fascinating about this is everything that we do through the NORMI organization when we do our assessments and work with clients is solution-based. And we really try to target a solution to help, not just say, here's your information. And the more information we get, whether there is or isn't a problem, whether there's a contaminant there or not, helps us provide the correct solution. So this just opens up a whole nother way of getting information to a more specific level that can help us provide more detailed solutions. So I thank you for that, for bringing that to us.
Yeah.
So I am going to say thank you to everybody. I enjoyed listening to you guys talk, and I found it very informative. I'm sure our members did too. And if you give me 1 second, I got to make a few adjustments here on the screen, and then we'll continue.